Answering out. Now I request our senior advocate, Mr. N.L. Rajah, to felicitate the new entrants.
Good evening, friends. Honorable Mr. Chief Justice Munishar Bandari, Honorable Justice Anita Suman, Mr. P.S. Amalraj, my good friend Mr. Prabhakaran, Mr. K. Muktaramalingam, Mr. K. Balu, Chairman of the Environment Committee, Mr. R. Shanmu Sundaram, Senior Advocate and Advocate General of the State of Tamil Nadu, Mr. R. Shankar Narayanan, Senior Advocate and Additional Solicitor General, Mr. P. S. Raman, Mr. P. V. Karthikeyan, Mrs. Priscilla Pandian, Mr. D. Saravanan. You are all stepping into a very, very hallowed precincts today when you step into this campus. Chennai 104 is just the High Court and the subordinate courts here. It is like a village. And you know, in villages in Tamil Nadu, there are presiding guardian angels of the village. And they are in two ends of a village. They are called Oor Kavalar Devam or Ayyanars. The Madras High Court campus, which includes the subordinate courts, is like a small village unit. It also has two presiding deities. On the north, you have the statue of Chakravarti Rajagopalachari. He was an advocate. He had a stupendous practice in Salem. He gave up his practice in Salem and wanted to start practice in the Madras High Court. He came to Madras, but he hardly had time to unpack his court bundles and his law books, because by that time Mahatma Gandhi had given the call for non-cooperation movement. He jumped into the freedom struggle, and when he did that, his family members told him that you are very foolish to do this, because if you stick on for some more time, you would be made a judge of the High Court. He became the first Governor General of India and was appointing judges of the High Court. On the south, we have the statue of Mr. T. Prakasam, an equally formidable freedom fighter and a person who rose to high fame. He was a barrister practicing in the Madras High Court and went on to become the first Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh state as soon as it was formed. Please learn about the lives of these great stalwarts so that it can impress you and you can learn many lessons from the lives of these stalwarts, and which can be the guiding light for you to progress in this profession. The head of this village is our Honorable Chief Justice, who is retiring in a few days. And I am sure, sir, that the supreme emotion you will have on the date of your retirement is one of relief. After a long time, we will not be there to trouble you. The litigants will not be there to trouble you. The court staff will not be turning up at your doors asking for various allowances and concessions. But on that day of relief, your Lordship will also have a sense of satisfaction that you have done and discharged your duties to the best of your abilities, and that you have given to the profession and to the high office you hold more than what the profession and the high office has given to you. That is not something which is very easy. That sense of satisfaction on the date of retirement is not something that comes very easily to most persons. So I thank you, sir, for having been with us and having rendered so much for this institution. You are all stepping into the portals of a very noble profession. You still don't know why it is noble. You've been taught in law schools that it is noble. Therefore, you are forced to think that it is noble. But only after you start your practice in law, you will understand what it involves. There is a very well-known book which is called 7 Lamps of Advocacy. This is a book written by Justice Abbott Parry. And that book talks about the 7 lamps of advocacy which you should bear in mind. The first of that is honesty. Lawyers are supposed to be honest since they have a fiduciary duty to act in the best interest of their clients. Such honesty should be reflected in every single act of theirs. While delivering the arguments, even your thoughts must be honest and your words must be honest. None of the cases in which Mahatma Gandhi, the greatest light of our profession, when he was hauled up before the court, did he ever plead not guilty? Did he ever say that I was not guilty? He told the judge that I have committed this offense, and it was his honesty which made him tell the judge that I have committed that offense, and please give me the highest punishment which this offense involves. That is the type of honesty that the legal profession had in those days, and that must be the inspiration for all of you to be honest in your dealings with your clients, with the court, and also with your fellow advocates. The second is courage. The nexus between courage and honesty are irrefutable. Refined legal knowledge, skills, and other qualities of truthfulness will enhance the ability to remain fearless under pressure and pain. Every one of the freedom fighters of India were the beacons of this quality of courage in an advocate, and you need to take inspiration from every one of them. The third is always keep your wit about you. Wit denotes the keen perception and cleverly apt expression of those connections between the ideas that awaken amusement and pleasure. In other words, it is the capacity to think clearly and speak concisely with an ingenious expression of thoughts. Wit is one of the greatest assets that a lawyer could ever have. Fourth, industry. This lamb recommends advocates to be excelled at all the required skill set to sustain or succeed in the field of law. I'll give you a small example. There is a book written by Mr. Felicitation, one of the greatest lawyers that India has ever produced. It is titled Before Memory Fades. And in that he refers to A.V. Vishwanath Shastri's arguments before the Supreme Court. A.V. Vishwanath Shastri sir is citing a particular proposition, and a judge of the Supreme Court says, Mr. Shastri, I think you know that this proposition has been overruled by a subsequent judgment of the Supreme Court, of the Court of Appeals in England, and I think you should have cited that. And Vishwanath Shastri says in his quiet, confident tone, my lord, I am aware of that, but it is also true that Halsbury's Laws of England has commented adversely about this judgment. As you step into the profession, you will be introduced to the Halsbury's Laws of England. Halsbury's Laws of England rarely comments adversely about any judgment. It prides itself on being a compendium of judgments. So the judge who was sitting in the bench said, I am adjourning this matter for some time. Please call for the Halsbury's Laws of England. Also call for the judgment which my brother is citing. Both books were called for, and quite rightly, the judgment cited by the judge of the Supreme Court did present the proposition which was at variance with what Mr. Vishwanath Shastri had pleaded, but Halsbury's Laws of England quite rightly commented adversely against that judgment. So when I met Mr. Felicitation, I told him, sir, that's a very interesting incident that you have narrated about Justice Mr. A.V. Vishwanath Shastri in your book. He said, you know, when we were young, this is the type of learning of the Madras High Court which made us all envious. So you are stepping into an institution which evoked that type of respect and that type of regard from not only Tamil Nadu but from all over India. Kindly ensure that you do nothing to bring down the prestige of this great institution. The fifth is eloquence. This lamp plays a pivotal role in assessing the abilities of an advocate, which determines his career success rate. Eloquence is an art of speaking. In fact, it is a panacea for all other incompetence. Palkhiwala, the great jurist, orator, statesman, lawyer, was a gifted speaker, and his budget speech, which were delivered at the cricket stadium, and if people did not know what was happening and pass by the stadium, they would think that it is an India-Pakistan cricket match which is going to happen at the stadium, like the one that you watched last evening. So people used to think it is something like that, but in fact it was a comment of Palkhiwala on the budget which used to invite an audience of close to 1 lakh of people. That is the type of eloquence that an advocate must practice to acquire. The sixth is judgment. By judgment, we mean it is the most important of all the 7 lamps of advocacy. Judgment in advocacy is a skill by which an advocate ascertains the collective case facts by discerning both merits and demerits of the case at hand and anticipating the possible counter-arguments. This is a great skill. You will not have that skill when you step into the profession, but please understand that this is the skill to be cultivated, and it is this skill which will stand you in good stead when you progress through the profession. The seventh, the last, is fellowship. While conducting lawsuits, when you step into the profession, today understand that you are not only stepping into a profession, but you are acquiring sisters and brothers in this profession. You are acquiring gurus in this profession. You are acquiring acquaintances in this profession. There is a fellowship that is always present in the profession which you should respect. I'll give you one small incident. I was sitting in a court next to my senior, Mr. Govind Swaminathan, who at that time was 80 years old. And Mr. Keshavenga, Mr. Parasaran's father, came into the court. I was looking the other side and didn't see him come. Mr. Govind Swaminathan could have very easily told me, please get up and give a seat to Mr. Keshavenga. But what Mr. Govind Swaminathan did was he stood up and offered his seat to Mr. Keshavenga. Of course, I jumped up when I saw him do that. This is the elegance. This is the good breeding. This is the culture. And this is what fellowship means. And it should become part of your bloodstream. And that is what will make you a respected person in this profession. Lastly, I will end with only quoting one paragraph from, see, when we enroll, the whole code diary, which possibly will be the first possession that you will have in the profession. You will buy a diary which was printed by Howard Co in those earlier days. I don't know who prints the diary this year. The first page had a paragraph from Cardinal Newman about the qualities of a gentleman. I'll just cite 2 paragraphs of that, and I would commend that paragraph for your closer scrutiny. He is talking about a gentleman, he is never been or little in his disputes, never takes unfair advantage, never mistakes personalities or sharp sayings for arguments, or insinuates evil which he dare not say out. From a long-sighted prudence, he observes the maximum of the ancient sage, that we should ever conduct ourselves towards our enemy as if he were one day to be our friend. He has too much good sense to be affronted at insults. He is too well employed to remember injuries and too indolent to bear malice. He is patient, forbearing, and resigned on philosophical principles. He submits to pain because it is inevitable, to bereavement because it is irreparable, and to death because it is his destiny. These are the qualities of a gentleman which Cardinal Newman wrote about and which were part of the culture of advocates. I would request you once again to read these pieces of literature and try to emulate these high principles which will make you a great lawyer. I thank Mr. Balu for giving me this opportunity to share these few thoughts with you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your enlightening speech and quoting